Namaste. Today we shall talk about split in confusion as a part of our series on psychoanalysis and philosophy. Split is a concept pervasive in psychoanalysis, but is it really understood well? It doesn't seem like. Hence, it is important to contemplate deeply on this concept to get some clarity. To contemplate on this subject of split, we have with us our psychoanalysis consultant, Mr. Himanshu Vaidya. Namaste, Mr. Vaidya.
Namaste.
Mr. Vaidya, can we start with how this concept originated?
This concept, as we recently know it, started with work of Melanie Klein in psychoanalysis. Melanie Klein found that very early in life, children don't have the psychological capacity to think of complicated concepts like absence of something, or to be able to undertake complicated psychological operations of synthesizing the opposites, the whole process of integration. And therefore, children, as they start thinking, the beginning of thinking is in terms of extremes. You think of something as all good and something as all bad. And this extreme thinking of something all good and all bad, she called as the split. The experiential outcome of this cognitive split is that when you are with the all good, you feel ecstatic, you feel secure, you feel you have got all the good things of the world. You are almost in an oceanic rapture. And when you are not with the all good thing, you feel as though you have lost all the goodness of the world. You are completely destitute. You are insecure. Maybe you have lost it because you are not good enough. And what to do in future that you don't lose it. And a frenetic search, a desperate search to regain the all good object. Similarly, when you are with the all bad object, you feel terror, you feel torture, mutilation, you anticipate a torturous attack, you feel low, you feel anxious, you can't concentrate, and there is a desperate attempt to get rid of the all bad object. And Klein felt that psychological health depended on the fact that we are able to close this split, which he called the paranoid schizoid split, and we get into a synthetic realistic position, a mature position, which he called the depressive position. So that is how the concept of split started with Klein, and then the word split started getting used more liberally in psychoanalysis. So then, instead of just looking at the childhood split or the split responsible for pathology, we started using the word split to communicate uh, any form of separation or extreme thinking, regardless of whether it is pathological or not pathological. And any form of schism, any form of non-integration, any form of dance of the opposites, any continuum where we could, any polarity, bipolarity, where we don't see the continuum between them very clearly, uh, holding of very opposite ideas, all these contexts, we started using the word split, including some people also have used it in the context of the conscious and the unconscious. So the use became very liberal of the word split, but technically what it means is extreme thinking, either in thinking of something as all good or all bad, And obviously, this is not realistic thinking. And this is therefore a pathological situation from which we have to move to an integrated position of maturity realism, what we call the depressive thinking or the depressive position. Supriya, you are muted.
So essentially, did it start with Melanie Klein or does it have a prior history?
It has a long history. Unfortunately, people in psychoanalysis nowadays don't read much of history of philosophy, philosophy per se, or even history of psychoanalysis. It has a long history because this concept is not something new. What was new was Klein's application of this concept to the working of the mind of the infant and finding this phenomena to be responsible for pathology both in the childhood state and in the adult state. Before Klein, we had in philosophy something called dialectic thinking. And the dialectic thinking was you go from one extreme to its opposite extreme. And after these two ideas are communicated, you evolve a third position, which is synthesis of the two. So the thesis, the antithesis, and the synthesis. This was a very common thing and which involved a sort of a cognitive split in the process of thinking. We also had concepts of selective attention, where you pay attention only to the good or the bad. We had concepts of magnification of the local, that you take one part and you magnify it and project it over the whole. We had concepts of overgeneralization. We had concept of extreme thinking. We had concept of bipolar thinking. We had concept of Abrahamical thinking. We had the concept of or thinking and thinking. So in all these concepts, the split was already there. We had the concept of alternative thinking without any synthesis. So even before Klein, in case of philosophy and in also in case of psychology, in essential sense, this thinking was there. What was not there, what Klein brought to the picture, was the particular kind of split, which she called the paranoid schizoid split. Another particular kind of split, the split of the part and the whole objects. The split of oneself and the split in the world, or the split in the other. So these were the concepts that Klein, it was a specific application of the concept to the infant psychology. And that was something which was new. The discovery of the psychological phenomena happening in the mind of the infant, leading to pathology in childhood age and also in the adult age, that was something new. The fact that those phenomena involved split was a coincidence, but the concept of split per se did not originate with Klein. It has a very long history in the philosophy, in the area of philosophy and also in the area of psychology.
Is split always something pathological?
No, it is not always pathological, and that is where the difficulty is, that there is a confusion related to split. Klein, when she started conceptualizing pathology, she came to conclude that the split is open. If the split is open, the paranoid schizoid split is open, it gives rise to pathology, and it's very necessary to close the split and reach the depressive position. And this became the cornerstone of Kleinian therapy. That one of the central goals of Kleinian psychotherapy became how to uh, bridge, how to close the paranoid schizoid split and how to move from paranoid schizoid position, which is the position of the split open, to the position of depressive position where the split is closed. So the movement from the paranoid schizoid position to the depressive position became the central focus of Kleinian thinking and Kleinian psychotherapy. Unfortunately, there are many problems with this kind of thinking, and very few people have actually got over it or conceptualized it or challenged it. The first problem is the all good and all bad. The split, if the split is open, it is not that there is nothing in between. The all good and all bad are endpoints, not of a binary continuum with nothing in between, but actually it's a complete zone, a complete continuum, a continuous continuum from all good to all bad. And we can see it in real life. It is very normal for people to partly be distant from an all good object. That you are not lost the all good object completely, but a distance is there between you and the all good object. Or something has happened and you become slightly more distant from the all good object. So it is not that either you are with it or you are with the bad breast. So it is not a discontinuous continuum. Actually, it's a continuous continuum. I should not actually say discontinuous continuum. I should say a discontinuous range. A continuum by definition means a continuity. So it is not a discontinuous range with two extremes. It is actually a continuum of all good to all bad, and it is not necessary to move from one extreme to the other. And therefore, there are various positions in between. Now, first problem is this, that there are many positions which are in between, and these positions have nothing pathological about them. Because if you look at the mid zone is the depressive position. But the depressive position, just outside of the depressive position, is not where pathology starts. Pathology starts much later, much away from the zone of the depressive position. And therefore, the depressive position itself is a zone. And there is a sort of no man's land, after which there are some zones of pathology and some zones of extraordinary creativity. And therefore, the oversimplistic conceptualization that either you are with the all good or all bad, or you are in the depressive position right at 50% or some point in between. That is the oversimplification of a continuum, which is actually a continuous zone between the all good and all bad. That is first. Second, there is a confusion about, there is a split about thinking about the split. Because the thinking is split is all bad and the closing of the split, the depressive position is all good. Now this itself is a split thinking, because when the split is open, it is not that everything is bad. If pathology arises out of the open split, extraordinary creativity also arises out of open split. So this thinking that when the split is open, everything bad comes out of it. And when the depressive split is closed and we get into depressive position, nothing bad can come out of it. Both of them are wrong. It's a split thinking about the split. The truth is, when the split is open, pathology can happen, extraordinary thinking can happen, extraordinary spiritual states can happen. And when the split is closed and you are in depressive position, you can easily be in the zone of mediocrity, averageness, and normalcy. You can easily be a very lowly motivated person. You cannot do extraordinary things. You are very much in tune with reality, but you are not in tune with something aspirational or something visionary. So this is the second difficulty about the Kleinian thing, the Kleinian idea of the split. And the third important element is, which nobody talks about, why did nature create such a process that we all go through a split? There must be some significance. And the significance is this, that The split is the first primary mental activity of discriminating and separating the good and the not good. And this is a very necessary evolutionary template from a moral point of view, a gratification experiential point of view, and survival point of view. So there is a significance of the split, an evolutionary significance of the split, not only for survival, but also for other aspects of the human quality of life. The primary role of the split is to enable us to separate the predator from the non-predator, a safe place from an unsafe place for our own survival. And therefore, this split between the predator and a parent, a caring parent, the split between the dangerous place to survive and a safe place to survive, a split between dangerous thing to eat and the safe nourishing thing to eat. Okay? This split is very necessary for survival. One, two, differentiate our group from the other human group which can attack us. So that also is a question of survival. And then do the moral aspect of it. Split is also necessary for what is immoral and what is moral. Split is also necessary for what is ugly and what is aesthetic. Split is also necessary for what is worth celebration and what is worth mourning. So the split is very, very necessary at every level of human functioning. And if the split is not open adequately in childhood, this group of people are permanently confused because they can't differentiate the good from the bad. So anything comes in front of them, they cannot exercise a judgment whether it is harmful or not harmful, beneficial or not beneficial, moral or not moral. They are almost in a perpetual state of confusion because early in childhood, the split did not open. So the split has to open and the split has to close. And again, when necessary, the split has to open. So this is the way the functioning of the split is, that whenever there is a crisis of survival or you want to do something extraordinary, the split has to open. And when you are in a settled, normal, stable state, you want things to go on as it is, you want to be at peace and satisfaction, the split has to close. So this is where the confusion about the split is, and there is a split about the thinking on the split. I think in the next few years, we will see people finding, conceptualizing, and using the goodness of the split.
So it seems like that the split is the most essential and fundamental tool in our growth and learning process,
Yes,
right from the day we are born.
yes, true. And it is also true that split thinking or the or thinking comes very naturally to us. Extreme thinking comes very naturally to us, and the depressive thinking, the integrative thinking, we have to make an effort. So to classify something as all good or all bad, this or that, this or thinking, this extreme thinking happens very naturally, unconsciously. But to do an end thinking, integrative thinking, and see good and bad in the same person or the same thing, that requires conscious effort.
In fact, regarding this, I read a very interesting quote by Osho, which said that you have to be available to both the extremes to be
Yes,
able to come in the center.
that is true.
So I think it relates to a discussion, I believe, in some way.
And this is because the question there is, how rich is the center? A person who has not gone to the extremes and not studied at the extremes well can also be in the center. And one who has experienced with great awareness and understanding the extremes can also come to the center, but the richness of the center is different.
How is it related to confusion and perplexity?
Yeah, it is an interesting question because uh, if the split does not open in childhood adequately, the uh, person is confused. He can't make out the good from the bad. And this is very true about uh, at the group level. You can look at non-Abrahamical religions and Abrahamical religions. In Abrahamical religions, the split being open is fortified by binary thinking. It is God or the devil. It is all good and all bad. Whereas in non-Abrahamical systems, usually everything is in gray. The integration is there, and this is something on which Jung also commented that there is a split in the Abrahamical thinking, and therefore products of the Western civilization always will be neurotic. And this is something that he said in a particular context, not to universalize it, but to bring home the point that if the split is not open, one can be confused, or if the split opens and closes, or it fluctuates, the same thing is seen as all good and after a few moments all bad. So the split is open, but the either ends of the split are getting projected on something at a very rapid rate. That again is second form of confusion. That the split is open, it is closed, it is alternating on the other side, again it is closed, again it is open. So there is a sort of a toggling movement of the split. And this is where the same thing in the first case you can't make out if the split is not open enough, you can't make out whether it's good or bad. You don't have the practice, so you are confused about judgment. In the second case, your judgments alternate. You think it is all good, then after some time you think it is all bad because of the rapid fire fluctuation in the split. And both of them lead to confusion. Perplexity arises when the split is open and the open split creates very high anxiety. Like the split is open, but you are with the all bad object. And that creates huge amount of anxiety and you just can't think clearly. You're completely perplexed. And perplexity can at times be accompanied by very high states of confusion, very high rapid fire toggling of the split. That either you can't just think because of such high anxiety, or you think and you change your position. And then you again can't think what is happening. So there can be a slight amount of confusion along with that perplexity. So both of them, in Kleinian view of things, uh, can happen because of the split being open. And one of the antidotes to split is internalization of good, reliable, stable object, which we'll come to later.
You mentioned in this discussion that in some cases when the split is not opened at all or it's not opened properly, there is a problem in judging. So, I mean, what could be the reasons for that? I mean, this because the opening of the split is a very normal phenomenon, it seems, from birth.
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. It can be constitutional that there is the capacity, the mental capacity at that age for opening the split is not there. It's a epistemological problem in the thinking apparatus. That is one. Second, it can be the terror of the all good, all bad breast is too high. So the split opens, but the moment the split encounters the terror of the all bad breast, it again closes. Or the ecstasy is so high that there is a disintegration anxiety associated with ecstasy. Because the ecstasy creates this effervescence, and the effervescence often leads to disintegration anxiety. So it is what is called the unbearable lightness of being. There's too much of joy, right? And there is a fear that if you will disintegrate completely into that joy, because that joy is effervescent and that is centrifugal. And the centrifugal feeling is so high that there is a disintegration anxiety. So either because of disintegration anxiety at the positive end or a terrifying anxiety at the negative end, the split, even if it tries to open, the moment the consequences are seen, it collapses back again. Or there may be just a hardware problem that the person is not capable of this psychological operation.
So essentially, it's a constitutional reason.
Essentially, it's a constitutional.
Essentially. So, okay. How important a factor is it in ideology, spirituality, and art?
It's a very important factor, and this is where people from other areas, when they come and listen to the split concept, they register their objections. And I think as we take psychoanalysis to these areas, we will have to modify ideas. And one of the ideas is this: it's very difficult in a depressive, realistic, mature position to really do anything great and outstanding in the areas of spirituality, art, or ideology. Essentially, the split is open and you are chasing an all good goal in all the three areas. In art, it is aesthetics, in spirituality, it's enlightenment, and in ideology, it's a perfect world. But essentially, in all the three, the split is open and you are chasing an all good object. Now, to say that that movement itself is pathological is to pathologize the best part of humanity. And it's like worshipping the mediocrity. What Jung used to say, that the ideal goal of the mediocre is to be normal. And this is what the ordinary discourse about depressive position is. It is the discourse of the average normal, the mediocre. And therefore, uh, in all the three, spirituality, ideology, and art, the split is open and extraordinary things happen in that open split. And those things are then understood, standardized, converted into cultural practices, and are practiced more in the depressive position by the masses. But essentially, they come out of the split open position, and many of them are even practiced by the masses in the split open position, and nobody thinks it is pathological except the psychoanalysts.
Does love also involve a split?
Yes, from Klein's standpoint, yes, because uh, there is no way you can fall in love and go through the whole process without idealizing the other. And the idealization of the other, the feeling of at last having got the all good object, is a split position. The feeling of uh, being on cloud nine, the whole feeling of there being a spring in the step, the whole feeling of there being positivity from head to the toe, all of those uplifting things essentially come from the positive upsurge from the split position. You are towards the all good thing. And this is where you go into a rapture kind of situation where the dream and reality become one. And similarly, uh, when the other part happens, you realize that you have got the wrong person, and then the other part of the split comes in, and you start feeling extreme aggression towards the person. Or when you lose the all good person, you feel depressed because the all good person has lost, and you often feel as though there is no substitute, and you are never going to get it back again. It's only going to be worse from here on. So these are all split involving living experiences. And if you constantly were in the depressive position, you would never feel the whole process of love. In
How
fact, the
does psychoanalysis, yeah,
whole poetry around love comes from the split open.
right. How does psychoanalysis resolve the split?
Uh, in psychoanalytic psychotherapy, there are many ways people attempt to resolve it. One is cognitive way of 360-degree thinking about something. That when you are looking at something and the person talks about something as extreme good or extreme bad, you try to do a 360-degree thinking about something and then try to synthesize. That's a cognitive way to integrate the split, close the split. Second would be to see it in oneself. The person who comes up for analysis alternately sees the good and bad parts of him, and then the therapist asks him to put them together. So the split inside oneself. Similarly, the person can talk about split about important people in his life, mostly parents, either parents or partners. And alternately, the person can talk about the good and bad parts and try to, therapist then brings it to the notice of the person that 2 days back you talked about all good parts. Today you're talking about all bad parts. If you put them together, how does a person look? Or the client analyzes the client idealizes the therapist, and after some time when the negative projections happen, the transparencies happen, he completely de-idealizes the therapist, and the therapist then we can bring the two together and say, a few weeks back you said this, today you are saying this, can you put it together to see what is right and what is not right? Similarly, if somebody is very action driven, even if he intellectually realizes there is a split, it has to be closed, but effectively cannot do it, he can use behavioral actions in practice. If he is cognitively convinced to do something, even though at affective level the split is not closed. And these are the things we can use within the bounds of psychoanalysis. Outside of psychoanalysis, there are many other techniques. And if the split does not close, despite all these measures, then one goes into why the split is not closing. And this leads us to addiction of the ecstasy of the all good breast, the masochistic addiction to the pain of the all bad breast, the envy of the all good breast, somewhere a guilt that one ought to suffer, or the fear of the depression in the depressive position. That as one gives up the all good breast, all good thing, the rapture and the ecstasy, that losing it is so depression provoking that the depression is unbearable. So these are some of the reasons why the split does not get closed, apart from the early childhood reason that the good breast or the good mother was not actually physically or emotionally present. That is how the story started. But apart from the presence or not presence of the good breast or the good mother, these are some of the other reasons why the split does not close. And those reasons can continue even in therapy. That now the mother substitute, the therapist is emotionally and physically present, is good enough, and yet the split does not close. The internalization does not happen. And that is attributed to some of these reasons, and therefore these reasons then have to be brought out in analysis and discussion if by no other means the split is closing.
So in such cases, maybe a very long and deeper analysis is required to resolve the split. Is
very
it
much,
so?
very much so, because it is something to be done repeatedly. And if you cognitively discuss it with the client, it is better, so that the client knows why it is important what we are trying to do. Even if you have to take one session, which is a didactic session, it should not be a problem. Don't worry about what the supervisor says, because my personal experience is that even if you take one session off and just explain to the person what we are trying to do, it's a great help and a great accelerator in analysis. And this is something that I think uh, the the father of Indian psychoanalysis, Girendra Shekhar Bose or something, I don't remember the name very correctly, but he used to do this of giving something to read or taking a didactic session and then going back to analysis, or taking 15-20 minutes for a didactic session and then continuing with the session. But I think uh, the psychoeducation part gives very high return on investment, and it must be taken when we are trying to do something difficult and it's not happening on its own.
We come to our last question. How does spirituality manage to resolve a split? Or how does it manage a split rather?
Well, there are very many. It's an interesting question because spirituality approaches split in many different ways. First, it does not see split primarily as pathological. In fact, it encourages split into a clear distinction between all good and all bad. This is supposed to be a moral advance. So the what is allowed, what is deemed moral, what is deemed spiritual by any spiritual system, and what is deemed to be immoral, anti-spirituality by any system, they are kept as wide apart as possible. More the split wide open, the better. So spirituality is not afraid of the split wide open, it actually encourages and feels better if the split is wider open. That's a very different position from psychoanalysis. Two, the good part is made ego syntonic and the bad part is made ego dystonic. Three, the good part is fortified by uh, sanction from spiritual books and scriptures, uh, opinions and commandments from the Guru, the all good object, and commandments from God, the ultimate all good object, omnipotent all good object. And the strength derived from all of this, and the strength derived from one's own superego mania of doing the right thing. Let me not call it superego mania, let me say the strength of the superego. All this strength is used to fight against the bad part, the ego dystonic part, so that the bad is completely removed and only the good remains. Now, this goal is not a psychoanalytic goal, it's a spiritual goal. Psychoanalysis would not even consider a possibility that you can have one end of the split and not have the other end of the split. The third element is spirituality uses visualization and idol worship as very important aspects in integration of the split. So when the split is to be integrated, the visualization of the all good, all bad, and putting together in a very visual way, and then feeling it. There is another technique in Tantra called Avishkara, which is almost like a psychodrama, a spiritual psychodrama, where you assume a character and you play all good and all bad parts and put it together. And after playing a few characters, you play your own character. And you play the all good parts of yourself and all bad parts and trying to put it together. And you have worship of uh, the all bad, which is like annihilating the all bad by enhancing one's awareness and tolerance of the all bad, which is very much so in Tantra that you worship the most terrifying forms of forces of nature by personifying them. So you have goddesses or gods which devour human beings, which torture human beings, which kill human beings in a very difficult way. And you worship them. And slowly, by being with them in a visual way, in an ideational way, you overcome their fear. So, the second way the spirituality deals with it is the first way is to defeat it using the force of the positive. Second way is annihilation by awareness and understanding so profound that the bad is annihilated with that awareness and profound understanding. The third way is bridging them together in worship of idol or some concept. Let's say, for example, the whole idea of hermaphrodite god, which is very prevalent in both Hindu and the Greek civilizations. So that is one way of integrating, and there are many other techniques of integrating the yin and the yang, the Shiva and the Shakti, the masculinity and the femininity. So the split there in the psychological gender sense is close to be using some particular techniques. So this is one more way of dealing with the split. And an important element also is the element of purification by using techniques of mantra or some other technique, whereby the difficult edge of the paranoid schizoid, the difficult part, the bad breast part, is somehow annihilated, or at least uh, sort of disempowered, taken force out of, made weaker through certain practices. And the central part or is to internalize an omnipotent, all good, reliable, stable object and undertake an internalizing, uh, a transmuting internalization, whereby the good, reliable, omnipotent, stable object is inside, and that is so well internalized that it does not become one end of the split. It is just internalized as an independent object without any reference to the split. It's almost as though you take the good part of the good object, all good object out of the split and internalize it, and you put the entire split away. Now that is something which is almost fantastical for psychoanalysis, but this is the direction in which the spiritual processes move of how to internalize forever an omnipotent, good, reliable, stable object, which allows one to really be blissful even when alone. So you will see many people who are living in Himalayas or all alone in caves, they don't show the psychobiological, pathological signs of being alone for a long time without adequate human communication. And that is because they have internalized omnipotent, good, reliable, stable objects inside, whereby the good object inside them is not perishable like it is in case of you and me. So we also internalize, but that internalization is very perishable. If you don't meet people for 3, 4 days, you can pull on. But after 2 weeks, you really start feeling lonely. Because the internalized objects are perishable, they have a shelf life. Somehow, uh, these people are able to internalize an omnipotent and permanent, good enough, good, stable, reliable object inside, and that causes some sort of a transmuting internalization, whereby the centrality of the need of a good, reliable, stable object is made on a permanent basis. You have made it a part of yourself, and that part is not perishable. So there are many ways in which spirituality deals with this concept of split. in its own process of getting into a state of enlightenment.
I'm just adding a question. Do we have time?
Yeah, we have a lot of time.
Yeah. Okay. Since spirituality and psychoanalysis view the whole concept of split in a very different way, as we have discussed. But is there any possibility of spirituality using some thing of psychoanalysis and psychoanalysis using something of spirituality to, kind of both of them you are taking help of each other in some way?
Yes, not only there is a possibility, I think this will happen in the coming 5 to 10 years, because both of them have immensely valuable things to contribute to the other. Analysis in terms of strengthening the positive, in terms of using holistic healing techniques, mystical techniques, and psychoanalysis in terms of the process knowledge of the pathology. Because often in spirituality, you overlook the pathology, and it is a real danger, which I forgot to mention. Good, you raised this question. When spirituality tries to overcome the pathological problems of the personality in its pursuit of enlightenment, often it happens that the problems just are repressed. And this is when you see explosions happening even in case of accomplished people. And these explosions often take the form of scandals. So the transformation is not complete. Part of the pathology is repressed, and the person feels he has completely transformed himself. So if a sincere spiritually oriented person is given basic psychoanalytic knowledge, he can figure out the difficulties in himself yet to be transformed. We can also accelerate the spiritual process quite a bit by using psychoanalytic knowledge and techniques of purification. Even if you don't use psychoanalytic technique, even if you just use the knowledge of functioning of the mind and pathology, even if you use spiritual techniques to heal it, you still can do a very rapid progress because you know what problems you have to solve, and you don't deny
Very true.
existence of those problems. Otherwise, because of ignorance, you don't even know that these problems can exist, and actually they do exist in a surreptitious way in your personality. So there is a sort of there is a saying which says, uh, in some particular context, it is true that what you do not know, you cannot see. And pathology is one such area, that in the area of psychopathology, except in case of very obvious pathologies, when you go to the subtle realm of it, you don't know, you can't see what you don't know. And this is where the knowledge becomes so important. And therefore, my personal opinion is that the integration of the two, spirituality and psychoanalysis, uh, is very, not only very necessary, but will be very enriching to both of them. And patients already are doing it. They take some help from some spiritual process. They also go to therapy. And this integration already informally is happening, done by the patients, but conceptually and officially it is not happening. And the way things are, uh, I don't see much hope of psychoanalysis transforming itself. I also don't see much hope uh, on the spiritual side, because most spiritually oriented gurus find it too difficult to accept psychoanalysis. So my feeling is that the integration really will happen if somebody creates a new branch, like a new school like spiritual psychoanalysis, or something that goes by any other name but to that effect. And it will happen more in holistic healing centers, where in order to heal themselves, people will demand newer tools if existing tools are not working or not working adequately. And that is where psychoanalysis, spirituality, philosophy, mysticism, all tools will be used to enhance the well-being of the person. So my personal feeling is uh, conceptual thinkers who create a new school can create a synthesis, or the synthesis will happen in holistic healing schools, rather holistic healing
And
hospitals, let me say.
And as you rightly said, I think patients are already doing it, even without being told by the psychoanalyst or the spiritual guru. So I think they will start demanding, or they'll start resort to such practices which will automatically bring these two together in some form.
I think yes, because the market will demand synthesis.
Yes, yes.
It's not the producers are not willing to create a synthesis, but the consumer demand will create a force
Demand is such.
for synthesis.
Right.
I think this
Right.
market drive will eventually create holistic healing schools where this synthesis is more likely to take place in practice, and then perhaps something at the conceptual level will happen.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Mr. Vaidya. We end our discussion here. Uh, we have dwelt upon this very, very important topic of split. And thank you so much, Mr. Vaidya, for sharing your knowledge and experience on this. For any further queries or any clarification, you can write to us at hvindia@gmail.com. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.